Little for what purpose?
Does the lady yield for questions?
Will the lady yield for questions?
Sure.
The lady yields.
Representative Goodwin, I always look with some degree of puzzlement at amendments striking the enacting clause and wonder why not simply just vote against the bill?
Well, I will be doing that as well, but this was to make the point that this is an unconstitutional bill that we should not even be considering.
Representative Goodwin, do you think that our society is degrading or getting better?
Well, that's very subjective. I am a very optimistic person, and I always have hope for our society.
But what do you think today? Do you think that today our society is degrading or getting better? Just lay your optimism aside for a second. Do you think that our society could be improved?
Oh, our society could always be improved, but I think that we've come a long way.
I wasn't quite finished asking my question. Do you think our society could be improved by introducing our children in school to a text like the Bible?
You know, the problem with that is we are not all Christians here in the United States. I have a very good friend who is Hindu, and I think that this brings problems when we aren't all of the same religious faith.
Understood. That's why in the bill it says, or other religious text. And I'm sure that your friend could have their children read the Bhagavad Gita, or your friends could read the Quran during whatever this period is. But my question to you is, don't you think society would be improved by allowing our children to pray and read the Bible during a designated time in school?
I think that the place for that is at home and in your religious institution.
Why do you think that? Why isn't it in school? Why isn't it in the House of Representatives? Why isn't it wherever I want my children to do it?
Because a school is to teach our children how to read, how to do math, how to do all sorts of things, but not religion. That's why we have the separation of church and state, and I strongly believe in that.
I think you seized on it, but you and other members of your party have turned school into a place where they get mental health counseling, where they get career counseling, where there's all kinds of things beside reading and math. So my question to you is, if we can do mental health counseling, we can do gender counseling, we can do all types of medical treatments or medical checkups in school, why can't they read the Bible too?
Mental health counseling is completely optional, and it's up to an individual student has those needs. But if a classroom says there is now this moment of silence for prayer, let's pull out our Bibles, what have you, then now you've crossed the line.
Why do you want to represent the party that wants to block the Bible from school? What is the agenda? Help us understand, because I want to understand, and my colleagues want to understand too.
If they are reading the Bible in order to have a conversation about what it means in the Bible, that's completely different than saying, hey, students, let's all pull out our Bibles and do some Bible reading. Again, that belongs in the home and in the church.
Well, I would submit to you that it belongs a lot more places than those two places, and that's one of the reasons our society has turned into what it is today.
You know, it's the other day when Representative Noble was talking about the Ten Commandments, she said, you know, we need to teach our kids to show respect, to not lie, to keep their word, all these things. We can absolutely do that, but we don't have to have a symbol of Christianity in order to do that. We can have these sayings, we can, you know, if necessary, have a moment of silence, but it's not necessary for our school boards to take a position on whether or not to allow the time in the schools and then put pressure on teachers and students to believe a certain way.
But Representative Goodwin, we've tried it your way since the 1960s, and I don't think we've gotten anywhere good.
I see a lot of great outcomes. Look at all the people here representing all the people of the state of Texas. I'm very hopeful and optimistic, and I do not think our society is going downhill. We just don't share the same view.
Thank you for indulging my questions.
This is